welcome back to another episode of the Fellas Podcast. Today we had an interesting race at Imola, and we can't wait to get into it. So with that said, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit the notification bell so you stay up to date on all things the Fellas. Let's start out, fellas. What do you think of the race this weekend?
I thought the race was good. I thought it was, a great race, but definitely want to give a shout out to Senna. It's been 30 years since his passing on that same track.
Right.
And I think there's other individuals. I can't remember the other person's name, Ralph. I know you know the person's name that passed away that same day.
Yeah, Roland Ratzenberger. He died over that weekend in a qualifying crash.
Yeah, so always got to salute our elder statesmen and the people that paved the way for
the sport we love.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I never really got a chance to really watch him race live, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos and watched a lot of past races, and that guy could drive. He was talented, and it really saddens me that he's not here today. It's kind of like Nicky Lauda. Got a chance to watch him race on YouTube, but if it wasn't for that movie that came out a couple of years ago, I wouldn't know who he was really, right? So I go back and Rush. Now I go back and watch his races. So yeah, just wanted to give pay my respects to Senna and
Roland Ratzenberger. Yeah,
Roland Ratzenberger for that day.
Yeah, well, that's funny. It's funny. Yeah, those fatalities. Not funny in a haha sense. I'm just saying that was the first time since 1982, the Canadian Grand Prix, that they had a fatality where Riccardo Patelli died. And then you fast forward to 2014, and I saw this Grand Prix that I'm going to talk about, which is the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, when Jules Bianchi died, where there was on track, some cars crashed and the crane was on track to remove the cars, and it was horrendous weather. Like, it was almost like a typhoon, foggy, pouring rain, and his car slammed into the crane and his head hit part of the crane, and he died. So sad. He was 25. He was a really I remember interviews with him. He was a really nice guy. And I also remember the Drive channel on YouTube had a special featuring him. I don't know if it's still there. So it's sad. It's sad, but his was the last until now. But honoring all these people that have died, and even the ones we don't know that happened back in the 50s, 60s, where it was like every weekend somebody died. It's good to honor them.
Well, back then, I again, you're the historian, but just looking back at the drivers from before, right? They had to have a lot of gonets, right?
Yeah.
Because they're racing a car and they sit between. If they're not sitting on the gas tank, they're sitting between the gas tank.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at some of the construction on stuff, safety was like nothing heard of during that time. Right. So the cars were made paper thin, and, yet they were pushing it to the max. So, props to them for them to take it, for them to take that level of risk to pursue something that I guess they were passionate about. Right.
Yeah.
So, we have come a long way. We still have more to go. But as far as from driver safety, and I know track safety, but still, props to them as far as them stepping out there and doing it, right? But because just imagine you're sitting on the gas tank. Yeah. There's no inner lining, right? Like today, where there's bladder in there and all that stuff.
Right.
You look at some of the race cars. Yes, and you look at race cars that there is no crush structure in front of their feet, so their feet was this crash structure. And some of these Le Mans. What prototype cars that we call today from back then. It's they're daredevils. That's the way I put them. They were daredevils back in the day.
For anyone interested, the movie Ferrari, I think Race to Immortality. I know it's on Apple TV. It's probably on all the streaming platforms. That is a great documentary to watch, to see how dangerous this sport was. No seat belts, like you said. You're sitting between the gas tanks in these cars, and how many men died every weekend, that we don't even know their names. But anyway, having said that, it's good to honor them.
Definitely. One last question I have in my head, it's kind of more rhetorical than it has anything else, is just imagine those drivers today with all the safety that we have in the cars. How much dangerous would they be today, right? You know, because they were like you said, daredevils with no safety, right? And now with all the safety requirements we have on the cars, they probably be just all Max Verstappen's, in my opinion, just taking it to the extreme. Getting back to your original question, Ralph, about the race weekend, I thought it was entertaining. Again, it's getting better, in my opinion. The practice kind of had me thinking that someone else might win again other than Verstappen, and it might have been Lando Norris, it might be Piastri based on the practice results. And then, seeing the qualifying and seeing how they, Red Bull pulled it off again and they fixed whatever problems that they were having. And then, Verstappen came out number one during qualifying. And then he also ultimately won the race. I saw Lando coming and approaching. I think if Lando had 2 more laps, he might have won a second race in a row, I was doubting that McLaren would have some resistance this weekend, just because I didn't think last week was a fluke. I just thought Red Bull would start adding upgrades, which I don't think they did. I still don't think they added any upgrades.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure they're coming.
And they didn't look much better, right? Because I was wondering, once they added their upgrades, that they were going to just kind of take over. But they came in third and fifth.
It was very. To me, I agree. I'm hoping it continues because it's nice to see Max under pressure. It's nice to see that, and we haven't seen that in a while. He's just been lost at the front. So yeah, I do wish Lando had those extra 3 laps to see what could have happened, but I enjoyed it for the end. I was enjoying watching McLaren and Ferrari. They're strong. They're not strong enough yet, but they're getting there, provided that Red Bull doesn't come out with a new package and then just stretch out even further. If it kind of stays like this, I think we might have a pretty good season for the remainder, with them battling. Monaco, we know whoever qualifies on pole for the most part, unless the team messes up or the car fails or the driver crashes, you're gonna win. It's hard to pass there. I enjoyed watching this one. How about you, Ray?
I think it's still a verdict left open in my mind, right? Because I've said I don't think that they'll ever catch them. I think what contributed to the race that we saw was the fact that it was an old school track, meaning there was the runoff was gravel, right? So you had to stay on the tarmac in order for your stuff to work, or else you're just out of the race, right? So I think that kind of helped it along, right? And I think the second thing was that that Red Bull, for whatever reason, wasn't doing well on the hard tire. Right, the medium tire was your key tire, right? Because at one point on the medium, it was like 6 point something seconds ahead, right, and it's still until when they came on a hard tire, that's when came back on. I would say yes, it was entertaining. It was nice to see how Max behaves under pressure, right? And I think if we could get more cars up there, then we'll see the true Max to see how much of a champion he is, right? Because he was coming. I think he was getting a little flustered when Lando started closing on him, and he wasn't able to walk away. My verdict is still out as far as them catching up, because once they put another package on, they're just going to gap it again, right? Because from baseline, my opinion is that at baseline, their cars are way ahead of the cars that were there already. So unless somebody is going to, and I don't know if that's possible, to do a leap where you then end up being, at their level by skipping one level, then they're gonna be the ones that that's gonna run away with stuff, right? That's kind of how my take on it. As far as the rest of the race, I saw some good stuff. I think I mentioned last time about you got to watch out for Oscar Piastri, right? And he kind of came to life with this one, right? He showed if it wasn't for his penalty, it would have been him up there and not Lando. Right. And as a rookie, quote unquote, he is something to keep an eye on. That he is, I think he's going to retire Ricardo, okay, for the Australian. Piastri is going to take
Oh,
over,
okay.
because Ricardo, he is, I saw some good stuff this year. I've seen some good stuff the last couple of races, but I think his days are over. I think Piastri is a new guy. And I think, giving him some more opportunity, he's going to step it up because, he was commanding it this whole time, right? And that's a good thing. I was impressed with, the way he was driving and what he's done and the capabilities he's bringing to the team and to the experience, the driving experience. That was it. And the other shout out I wanted to give out to is my man, Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's like a different man this year. You know what I'm saying? Yep. He is in the points all the time, most of the time, right? And he is driving really good. I think he's, really stepped it up, right? And so, I give him a shout out because they had an interview after the race wrap up, and he even admitted that, in his younger days, he'd be out there like losing his temper and stuff like that. And he, now he's kind of got it under control, right? Yep. So, props. My call out is to Tsunoda that yes, he is doing well.
Before you move on, Tsunoda, I just wanted to add, I agree. I was watching him during qualifying and how smooth he was with his steering inputs. He wasn't, normally different tracks, and I guess also based on this track, you would see drivers and, it's like a lot of correction here, but he was like almost one turn. One. It wasn't, it was very smooth and he was very strong. I mean, Daniel was nowhere near that, which I feel for Daniel. I like Daniel, but got to give Yuki his props. Like he came out there and he showed, I know he has experience with that track. He was on fire from qualifying for, and I believe he did well in the race as well.
Yeah, but he's not. But this is not. So what's cool is that this is not his first race, right? He's been showing up over the last races that we've had up to this point. So props to him because he has definitely put on a different shoe this year, and he's really pushing forward, and I think maximizing the potential of the car, right? For what he has under him. So, I would want to say if the Yuki now was put into like a McLaren or a Red Bull, he would be fighting at the front. I'm saying? The talent from my unprofessional view, I think he has what it takes to be a front runner.
He does. And his pass on Logan Sargeant during the Grand Prix was good. He came from the outside, pushed it, got the inside, and passed them. It was, I don't want to say it was aggressive, but it was dominant. Like he was like, I'm sending it. Let's see what happens. I'm not backing out. So yeah, it was very good to see. I of all the races so far, I enjoyed this race the most.
Yeah, well, I think for me, it had to do that. It was old school because you watch when they come out of a corner, right, and they ride the curbing, right, because they're trying, or a corner entry, they try to open up the corner by riding the curbing as much as possible before turning in, and and you bring in more speed, so you got to let the car come on out when so that you don't go off the track, and you watch it because even Lando in his rundown one time went, they call it track limits, and the commentator made a comment which is true. You didn't need to call track limits because, dude, if you go off, you're on the gravel, you ain't going nowhere. He dropped the back tire and the gravel a bit, trying to come around. So it was more tense for me to watch it as looking at the speed and seeing how they were able to hold it because they used all the way up to the last portion of that track before it went gravel, right? To hold the car on track. So, I was impressed with that, but it was good. I think it's a track dependency we saw right now. We'll see. This needs to happen, couple more races for me to say, not as you say, not Monaco, because whatever you qualify, you kind of get. Yeah. Right.
Your only chance in Monaco is coming out of the tunnel down to that first corner. If you're close enough, you can force it. That's the ideal. I've seen other drivers make passes in other areas, coming back to the front straight. That last corner, I forget where it is on the track, but it's the last corner. I remember it's the corner Michael one year said that he lost control of his car and then ended qualifying there. Those are the only two spots that you really can pass.
Oh, you talk the front straight that Alonso did also. Alonso pulled that trick one year too, and Michael did it there, and Alonso a couple years later did the same thing and just killed qualifying at that point too.
Right. I've seen there. but
Right.
ideally it's coming through the tunnel right when you're
Yeah.
coming down. If you're close enough, you can run up alongside them and
Right.
take the inside and push them to take that. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
Yeah.
other than the historical aspect of Monaco, how exciting is that you know that there is no passing that's really going to be taking place, right? It's just, to me, even this race, there's only one place you can pass, really. It was on that front stretch. And that had some excitement to it because, if you had the car and you had DRS, you could pass. But Monaco, it's even tougher.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering why they haven't, again, other than the historical aspect of that track, they haven't adjusted it a little bit just to give a little bit more excitement. It's like how they do in the NBA and the NFL. They change the rules a little bit just to get more engagement with the fans. But I guess they're not losing engagement, so why change it, right?
Well, I don't know, but I can say this. I think it's kind of like what Ray said of Imola, which, as you were talking, Ray, I thought about it. I think his first name is Herman. His last name is definitely Tilke, that designs a lot of the modern GP tracks.
Yep.
And he designs them with these runoffs, for driver safety. But what you just highlighted is that Imola doesn't have that. It's more of an old school track. So you can't be lazy as a driver or else it's going to cost you, right? Because you got gravel. That's going to stop you, right? Monaco is a track where it's turned up so much for the drivers because you have to be precise. If you have a lapse, boom, you're gone. You're done. And I again, Senna, we're talking about him. I forgot the year. He was driving for McLaren. He was leading. His teammate at the time was Alan Prost, and he was basically way ahead of him. To Alan, and Alan's words, Ayerton wanted to embarrass him, and he was pushing. He clipped the barrier at one point. Done. Like if he'd have backed off and he disappeared to his room, and Ron Dennis had to over hours coax him out. That's part of the mystique and the allure of Monaco, is that yes, we don't see the passing so much, but we like watching what's there. But for the drivers, they have to be on it all the time. And that's why when you do see a driver pass, you're like, wow, that he's great, because you can't do it here, to line it up. So I think that's part of what keeps it.
It's a spectacle. Monaco is a spectacle with stuff, right?
Right, but it's a challenge for the drivers. It's very technical.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
that's what I agree with you on that statement, because I've heard number of drivers say that you have to be focused 100% of the time, all the time, or else it's over. But from a fan perspective, I think Monaco may be best enjoyed if you're on site.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a surrounding thing, seeing all the people, the rich people with the yachts and the casino and all. It's the I'll call it ancillary things that make up the event that draws the people there. Right.
Did you sell your yacht yet, Ray?
No, I just bought another one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this one. Yeah. So, I'm going to Dukes of Hazzard it. Oh no, better yet, I'm going to be Van Diesel, where they jump that sucker onto the top deck.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Fast and Furious, making a landing pad so I could just ride it right on. But anyway, so it's a spectacle thing. But winding back to the race from this weekend, I had a little problem.
And
I have a problem with Checo, right? Because during the race, it was, during the waning moments of the race, other drivers came by that, he was, for whatever reason, wasn't turned on.
I know it.
And he let Russell go.
Yep.
No problem.
Yep.
I forgot who it is. He came off the track and let the person go.
Yes.
Right. And then when Lewis shows up, all of a sudden my man got attitude like, oh, I can race. Yeah. What is going on there, really? You know what I'm saying? Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, oh, I'm going to race now. Dude, what is really happening in that environment? Because I told you, I forgot who the driver was after Russell, that, the commentators, you said, man, he just left them the whole track for him to do it, right? And Lewis shows up, and I think the commentators even kind of alluded to it in a way, like, yo, that was a dick move, right? Yeah. So why is he doing that? Yeah, So anyway, that rubbed me a little.
I did see that.
You saw what Lewis did after he passed him, right?
What he left him behind.
He did the F1.
Oh, it's just I don't know if something came down from inside the radio and they did not say it, right? To say, hey, hold him up, right? But it was just I just found it a bit shocking.
I doubt it came through the radio, but I saw it too, and I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Like, wow, now you want to race him, but you let the other two guys go free and clear.
Yeah, I
don't know what their relationship is like, but
right.
But Lewis got him.
Who was his race with today? Was it with Lewis and Russell?
No, it was with himself. He was out of it. Well, in my opinion, he was.
Yeah, but if there was I know Lewis was praying for a yellow flag when he was in first place, and second place I was praying for it too. But I think he was just trying to hold Lewis back, so when he did pit, he could try and come back and fight Lewis, because that's who his race was with. He wasn't with. It was should have been with Russell and Lewis,
right?
And that's it,
right?
Yeah.
But you said he let Russell go by, right?
He did.
Dude, Russell, he didn't even hesitate. And the second guy, I'm upset I can't remember the second driver, because the commentator made a comment on it, and they were kind of saying around the way, it's like, but my man parked the car and say, go on by, man, take the whole track for yourself.
It might have been Hulkenberg.
Right? Because when I was looking at the timing, right, Lewis and the group that he was with opened up a tremendous amount of time gap between the rest of them, so that people could even pit, go to lunch, and come back and still keep their position and don't have to worry about them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? At one point I was looking at it, I was like, whoa, how come that time gap is so big? Right? Yeah, that irked me. That really irked me on that that it's just like out of nowhere. You had no stuff, on your and the strategy that they were running was kind of weird, because when they were saying it, I was like, dude, what type of strategy do you have him on? Do they want him to even compete?
I ask myself all the time, how many friends does Lewis really have in Formula One? Because when you're dominant for so long, just like how Verstappen is right now, a lot of people were happy that Lando won last week, right? They just wanted to see somebody new. I mean, Lewis was dominant for like 10 years. I don't see that there's any love loss, between him and Checo and all those guys. They probably want to see him at the back at this point in time. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it might be subconscious. He probably didn't even realize he was doing it. Right. Or he
was conscious. He's a driver. He's present. Come on. I'm not buying that for a minute, bro. I'm not buying that. You know what I'm saying?
Seeing it, I have to agree. I noticed it. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed it too, but not with Lewis. I noticed that he was racing Lewis, but let one person go. I didn't see that he let Russell.
No, he let two. Yeah, he let two. But we never know. We don't know what their relationships are. We don't know how these people are. And I mean, I'll say it here. I've always said that world champions, they all have an element of dickishness to them, and they have to have it. That's how you win. It's like being on the track and putting your elbows out, making the car as big as possible, at certain times. So I don't get caught up in that. I don't know I see it, but I don't know what the relationship is. But, at the end of the day, Lewis said, all right, I'm going to take it. No problem. He stuck behind him. He took it,
but it cost him 2 seconds. It cost him, a whole lap. He had to wait for a whole lap to get by him, right? Because I think Lewis approached him. They must have said it over the radio or something that, he's letting these other people through. So Lewis approached him as if that, all right, I'm going to get let through let me roll it back. My opinion. I think Lewis approached him thinking that, okay, he let these other two guys go through because Russell went through, and Lewis is like, damn, Russell just showed up on his bumper and he went. So maybe he's not really pushing it because his race is not with us, right, at this point. So I think that Lewis approached him to thinking, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. And all of a sudden, I call it, he did the Alonso move, right? Because whenever Lewis and Alonso shows up, Alonso is driving Lewis until Lewis works his way through. So he took over for Alonso today since Alonso wasn't up there. Yeah. And, and then Lewis had to adjust because then he's like, oh, okay, you're not going to let me through. So he, took my lap for him to go figure out, where he needs to come, where he's going to come back and get him, right? So, yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're at a Grand Prix. So you can't be mad at him for doing it. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's called, hey, I'm not out here to get let by. He don't want to let me by. That's fine. I got to take it. And that's Lewis, we didn't hear him complaining. We didn't hear him whining. He got about the job and got past the dude. So at the end of the day, that's good. Checo, I wanted to say this, though. I believe he's out of contract next year. Looking at this race and the last few, I'm wondering if Sainz is going to get that seat. I'm wondering. That's just me speculating, because teams are not there to have the cars that much of a gap between them. As far as where McLaren finished, where Piastri, when he finished what?
He was behind Leclerc. So he's fourth. He finished fourth, right? Fourth, yeah, he's fourth.
Fourth, and Lando finished second. That's okay, because you knew he was pushing, right? And and like you said, if it had worked a little different, he'd have been right up there too. But to have Sergio all the way down, where did he finish? He's in the points.
He was 8th.
To have him finish there, and Max showing you the true measure of the Red Bull, dude, his days are numbered if he doesn't step up. And what do you see? A man at Ferrari that doesn't have a contract, and he's running strong.
So I would agree with that, right? Because I'm a little disappointed with Sainz right now, because all of a sudden Leclerc seemed to be on fire and he's like cooled out. You know what I'm saying?
Or is it Leclerc just turned up his wick?
That's what I'm saying. So, I was expecting Sainz to top Leclerc, right? And right now, Sainz hasn't been, being the forerunner, the front runner like he was in the opening part of the season, right? So I was just wondering, what happened there. But it could be that Carlos might, is a possibility for Red Bull. I just got accustomed to Sainz being in front of Leclerc the whole time, for a couple of races, right? So he was, the man on fire that was going to say, I'm going to show you what you're giving up, right? So, but it's kind of, I'm just curious as to what has changed to make him like kind of cool, cool down the way he is, and not, and again, if Charles stepped up, fine. There's no knock against Charles, right? But maybe Charles has gotten comfortable and showing now what his true capabilities are with the car.
Now, I was going to say he's only 20 points behind Charles right now, right? Which is one race, or coming in second place, you can easily get right back in there. But I think the first couple of races were just like you said. Let me a little anger, a little disappointment. And sometimes that dies down after a while. We can't maintain that for a whole season unless they keep screwing you every weekend, which I don't think they are, right? You just stay angry. But we've all been there when we get extra focus when we feel someone's done us wrong.
Yep.
And I think it's just wearing off. It's what, race 7?
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna wear off after a while.
And we don't know. I don't think Carlos is doing horribly.
No, by no means.
He finished 5th. He finished 5th, and it showed that the McLarens had the measure of Ferrari, right? So that's not it's respectable in that sense. But we don't even know. You never know. He might already be in talks with somebody. You never know. So, not to say he's cooled off, but I'm curious if it's just that Charles turned up his wick, because he's always been on fire.
Yeah.
From been there, right? So maybe he was just like, hey, what's going on? And he's turned it up, and Carlos has to, lift himself, turn the wick up on his fire too to catch up to him. But I don't think he's being blown out, but he's not winning against his teammate right now. So
yeah, and I want to just turn a little bit to the technology side a little bit, because it was a couple years ago, right? FI said they were changing the cars so that they won't be so aero dependent, right? Because the cars were very air dependent, so they couldn't really come up close to the car in front. But again, Piastri suffered from that, right? During the race, that when he got up on the car on Charles, right, his front was washing out, right? So it's just like, it just makes me wonder that really, I guess how they orchestrated the rules wasn't tight enough so that these guys couldn't work a way around it, right? Because they were talking about him losing, wearing out the front tires and stuff like that, and not having a grip type of deal. So maybe it's still something that they still need to look into. They have made improvements, not let me say that, but I think hopefully there's still some more room for that on track stuff. We had some good passing there in the first little kink after, I guess they call it turn 3. Is it turn 3? or what we call turn one. Everybody thought it would be turn one is turn two, where they had some guys come on the outside and went around guys and stuff like that. So there was some passing. Yes, it was limited on the track, but there was some passing, that was there, and it was good. It was, for me, again, I liked when they did the in-car to show how close they were coming to the edge and how consistent they were coming to the edge of the track without, going off. And even Lewis went off, right? Because Lewis came in and I guess, I don't know, somehow the wheels locked up. He had turned, and understeered, right? Because he locked the wheels up. So the car wasn't taking the steering input that he put into, and he had to drive through the gravel so he didn't get stuck to come back on again.
You're right. But Max was in danger. He exceeded track limits enough that the next time he was going to get a penalty as well. So there was some of that going around with him as well. Like he was the guiltier of it more often. Put it that way.
Yeah, right. Yes, I remember them saying that if he got one more time, he was gonna do it. And I think that kind of helped it. I think that also aided in him falling back, right? Because now you have to be more cautious of what you're doing, right? Because not only that Stewart's going to call you, but if you hit the wrong part of the track, you're gone. Right. So he had to adjust his driving. And it was, I think I said it and you said it before, is that I'm hoping that somebody gets a car that they can be more consistently close to him. Right. Because to me, that's when you're going to see the true driver in him, if he has that ability. Because today it seems like he was getting a little flustered when Lando was on the way. And Lando too. Lando's tell the guy, shut up, leave me alone.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's pushing, right? You can see he's pushing. I understand the guy. The guy was just trying to give him data to say, hey, maybe if you could work on this one, this corner, you'd get the couple tenths that you needed. But I think in that thing, maybe what would have been a more appropriate looking back is just saying, good job, keep it up, and just leave it at that for him.
They're all getting paid well. They could handle that. But hold that thought. Simon, I think you had something you wanted to say.
Oh, but going back to the aerodynamics, have you noticed that this year we haven't been setting track records? I think the aerodynamics and the adjustment of the cars is playing a role in that. I think they are allowing the cars to get closer and they're not getting all that dirty air from the cars anymore. But something's got to give, right? So if you're creating that aerodynamics to allow for the cars to breathe better during close encounters, speed is going to be one of those functions. And I think that's why we're not seeing those track records being broken anymore. But that's just my humble opinion, just based on this physics, right? So I kind of like the way it is, to be honest. I like the fact that the dirty air is not ruining the cars and they got to come out all every time just to get clean air in order to pass the cars because of the aerodynamics is better. But I don't think the speed is going to go any higher.
And I'm okay with that, right? Because I'm looking from a driver safety, right? I'm just looking at I'm taking the non-educated fan approach, where you see two guys go out a corner and you see who comes out on the other end, right? That type of deal, right? So that's just the approach I'm taking. That's from the perspective I was making that point from. That's what I was doing, because I just think they need to do it. I don't know if they're able to do it tweak it a little more so that they can really get up on there and do it. Or it could be also, taking it back, it could be the compound of tire that Pirelli brought, right? That it was more sensitive to when the cars are in dirty air, because it needed the extra aero downforce to help the car, make it stick, as opposed to not having it. Then the tire wasn't going to be able to behave. Maybe it's not, getting into its temperature. It could be, that part of it too. But, so that was kind of, just my little point on it.
I don't have it fully, but I remember watching after the Miami race. It was on the Mercedes team channel. They were speaking with one of the engineers, and they were saying how Lewis was suffering from the effects of a crosswind that was hitting at a certain point on the track that was really throwing the car off. So, I mean, the cars are sensitive.
Aero sensitive. Yes, very much so.
Yeah, they are very aero sensitive. So it's like all these little minute things that us watching from home, we don't see, we don't know about. But it's all of that. And then even when you say like not being able to close, it was earlier this year. I forgot where they were racing. It might have been in Melbourne. Alonso, somebody was closing on Alonso, and Alonso was they were telling him, he goes, yeah, no, let him come. I'm helping him destroy his tires, based on how he was driving his car ahead of him. He was affecting this guy behind him to destroy his tires. So there's so many pieces to this puzzle that, you know, for us to learn that we don't even know, you know,
fluid mechanics is basically what it is.
Yep.
We not even touched the surface on what that really means, right? As far as racing is concerned. Those little bit of aero that they have in the front, a little bit of aero they have in those little pieces, those little carbon fiber pieces, as far as downforce and upforce, it's amazing what they're able to do.
Oh, Porsche on one of the I think it was a 997 GT3 RS. They had those dive vanes on the front, and they were saying how much downforce it produces, and you're like, what, that little piece of thing? But I'm evidently it does.
You stepped over there, so I'll say, if you really want to see an exercise in aero management, look at the new GT3 RS, right? Where they put up, you know, how they put the radiator now is in the center of the car. You have no more frunk, right?
Okay.
So, and it goes right into it. And then they have on the hood, they have aero channels that pushes the air out to the side of the car. And then what they did was on the roof right behind where the driver is, they have some, you know, you look at it, it's like, why they put those piece of plastic there? But that piece of plastic is set there so that the warm air that comes out of that radiator doesn't come back in and go on top of the car to the intake. Okay. So that car, you know, is you know, just an aside, I'll say
marvel.
A lot of the people that own it, it's kind of disappointing because they'll never have the talent to really exercise it. Right. And it's just going to be a showpiece to say, I have one, you don't. Right. But, you know, because that car is, from air management. But yes, you're right. Because, what impacts the car behind it is the diffuser, right? What it does with the air coming out from under the car and, you know, how much the lack thereof there is to keep the car down. So, but, you know, it was, you know, it's just, I just heard it because I was really hoping that Piastri was, you know, I was disappointed when he got the penalty, right? Because I think Piastri is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. Because remember, this was the first race he got the updates that Lando got before.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I remember you
so
saying
they're treating him like a stepchild. You follow what I'm saying? Well, you know, hey, call me conspiracist, but yo, I got two drivers and I'm dropping stuff. I'd rather drop both of them at the same time, right? Than drop one or the other. You know, I guess maybe I'm having a shock left over from what they did with what you call it there, when they took from Sargeant, took the car from Sargeant and said, yo, sit out this one. We're gonna let our boy gonna run it instead.
Go ahead, Simon.
We don't know the behind the scenes. I hear what you're saying, Mr. Ray, but we all know that sometimes you can add. We've all been a part of the conversation where they've added too much upgrades and it hurt the team. So we don't know if that was a strategy where they said, hey, let's put all the upgrades on Lando's and put half of it on Piastri's, the ones we think is going to work, and see how it plays out. Or we don't know if they ran out of time. Because there's certain time limits that you have to have your car ready for inspection, right? And if you don't have the time to get all of that on there, then, you know, I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? I'm having a hard time. This is just my opinion, right? I'm having a hard time seeing a team with two drivers making two separate decisions and not creating resentment on the team that then destroys the team and then destroys all the points and the money at the end of the year. Communication and chemistry is very important, whether you have two drivers or not. It's a team. Doing something on purpose that would destroy the chemistry of the team seems counterproductive. That's just my opinion.
I listen, and I don't know. Maybe in the 90s, the early 2000s, it was very different then. From a team point of view, I would see it as, hey, Lando had more points than Oscar, right? At the time, give him the full upgrade package. Oscar had a few items that they had. They couldn't get it all out. So from a team point of view, it also gave them an opportunity to run the cars, one upgraded, one not as much, and get that information, right? To see how far they are. And they were like, okay, cool. Now they brought him in with the full package. So, I mean, yeah, you could get your feelings hurt, but it depends on what game you're playing as a driver, right? Are you playing the long game or are you playing the short game? Remember when I said when Lewis first came in, he could have been a rookie world champion. Nothing against Lewis, right? But he didn't have the level of experience he has now. Then he was hungry for it. But if he'd have laid back on a couple races and let Alonso come in ahead of him, he would have beaten him. You know, he would have become a world champion, right? So I say Piastri, you know, I don't know if his feelings are hurt, but you know what? The team didn't have it. He got it now, and he was strong. And also in his favor is that this was the first time he raced on that track, and he was
killed.
Yes,
he killed it.
Yes, he was strong. First time on that track, and he was strong. He's at the start of a beautiful career, you know, but we all know, and I don't want to throw anything on Daniel. That's something I would love to know the answer to, like what happened to Daniel, like, because he was so on fire. But anyway, going back to Piastri, he has a way to go, and I think he's going to be strong. He continues the way he is, he's going to be a force.
I think he's gonna win a race this year. My prediction.
Yeah, well, you saw what happens, right? When he got the full package, he beat his teammate, right? So you know, and so right now Monaco for me is a write-off, right? So wait until they get to another track to see what happens with between him and Lando, right?
Because I don't think it's a write-off.
Right. Thank you.
So let me be clear. It's basically what you do in qualifying and team strategy puts you in front, right?
He beat Lando this week.
So yeah, but qualifying is a very fickle thing, right? You have to be on fire that one time, right? Whereas with the, you know, so when you end the race, you have time that if you were kind of off, you have the ability to make up some time coming back during, you know, in the race, right? Whereas when you go to Monaco, that time to make up is not really there, right, on the track. Because Monaco is basically, all right, here we go again. I don't know, maybe I'm just having a bad day today, but it's just a parade lap thing.
Nah.
Right? Where you're just going to watch the guys parade around, you know, they might do, if they don't do anything stupid, kind of, you know, you kind of get the same finish. I'm talking, when I say that, I say primarily, I guess the guys that are up in the top five, right? You don't see a lot of movements in that thing. From in the back markers, you do see some movement, but the guys in the top five, it's kind of it can be somewhat stagnant, right? You have to bring in some strategies from your team to help you, you know, do what you need to do. But on track movement, that's what I'm saying. You don't see much because there's not much passing. So in that sense, you know, that's kind of what where I see. Whereas what I'm saying with Piastri, you know, when they go to the next race where you can have some on-track stuff along with your team, you know, doing stuff, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands after that, right? Because you have two chances. You have qualifying, you know, whatever, that's one issue. But, you know, if you don't make it in qualifying, you can always try and make it back in the race, right? Whereas, you know, where in this one, it's going to be tight. This one is, from my perspective, for the drivers, it's going to be, everything hinges on qualifying. Wherever you qualify is going to be key for how you finish in that race.
And I'll say this. Yeah, that's fine. I've always watched the Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh, no.
But I'm just saying, for me, from the point of view, watching the driver, provided that the team has provided them the equipment that they need, set up, you know, and they've worked with them and set it up the way it is. Yeah, you got that one shot. You got qualifying. Then you're 13th. you know, wherever.
So qualifying is it? Qualifying is the race, right?
Right. Qualifying is it. And then, like I said, for those that are really racy, and I've seen it, you have that coming out of the tunnel that you can make a pass there. Now it's probably going to be trickier now because of the track limits issues, because I've seen some very sketchy passes there in the past. But if you're far enough ahead, you can do it, you know. And that again is the driver's skill, because you got to push like hell to get down there, brake right, late brake to get it, to hold that corner, to make that left, then make a quick right to go back, you know, to continue on, to clear the car you're trying to pass. So you have to set it up right. So from that point of view, when it's like that, I enjoy it. But I agree with you. There have been races where there isn't that, and it's just a parade. For the most part, Monaco has always been enjoyable.
So with that being said, which is a good segue, can we do some predictions for the next race?
Verstappen wins.
Nah, I don't.
And then the rest.
I think McLaren is going to do a better showing, and I also think Ferrari is going to do something in Monaco as well.
Well, we haven't heard about a Red Bull upgraded package yet. That's something I'd like to look at, because if they drop an upgrade, I don't see it being negative. They may just push off a little further down the road. What it's showing right now, if they haven't done an upgrade, they need one now, because these guys are close.
Can I say something? Let me just jumping on that. Monaco is not an aero track. It's a grip track. It's a physical grip, because you don't have enough speed for it to be really. Yes, you have the big front straight kind of going up, but you don't have enough of that. Those things for. Oh, let me roll it back. My opinion, right? It's a more mechanical grip track than it is an aero dependent track, right? So I'm saying that, and I'm saying that because I think if they brought a aero package, I don't think it would be fully utilized on that circuit, right? So that's where that's the thing.
I think my predictions right now, it's so easy to go over Verstappen. That's easy, right? But I'm not going to do it. I think McLaren and Ferrari have created some unique challenges for Red Bull, right? They've kicked Perez out of the running at this point. So it's pretty much Verstappen's driving that's holding him with a decent car. I'm not sure if they actually spent the money or needed to spend the money to do upgrades this year. Or maybe they're waiting to the second half of the year, which I probably think they are. They're going to wait to the second half. They're way ahead in points. Why even bring that ace card, I'm going to say ace card, out of their back pocket right now when they can do it at the middle of the season, right? That's just me from a strategy standpoint. But I do think Ferrari is Charles Leclerc's hometown. I do think he's going to have a little bit more motivation. I think his confidence is high because he's come in third in the last couple of races. He's podium twice now in a row.
Yeah.
Right? I think Lando is also I don't know if you heard what he said after the race, but he actually thought he was going to win this race.
Yeah. I did.
His confidence is through the roof. Yeah. Right. And I think there might be some shaky grounds for Red Bull based on Perez's results and based on what transpired at the end of the race. So I have a feeling that it's either going to be, I'm going to go with my predictions. I'm going to say it's going to be Charles Leclerc. It's either going to be first or second. Verstappen's either going to be, I think he's going to be second or third. And I think Lando is going to be right there with Piastri.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think it's Piastri going to get it. I'll go a wild card. I think it's Piastri, Max, and then Charles. But Monaco is the track that, for all that you said, Ray, and Simon, you've said, is that's the track where if you can line it up in a qualifying, you could get that one.
If it was me, I'm going all out. And if I hit the wall, I hit the wall.
Well, if it's not Max and you have Pole and he's behind you, you better be going all out, because he's going to be pushing you.
He's going to be pushing me, but it's going to be hard for him to pass me.
No, but he might be pushing you to nerve you so you do hit the wall and he goes through. It's there's so many strategies, but I think Piastri is running good. I'm gonna take the long shot on him.
I just want to clarify hitting the wall. I mean, if I hit the wall in qualifying, I'm going all out in qualifying to get that first or second place spot, because I know it's going to be hard for people behind me to pass me. And if I hit the wall, they fix it overnight. I'll be in 10th or 3rd place, whatever. Right. But I'm still racing.
Right.
But I'm going all out qualifying. I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Ray.
So I think Oscar is going to be the wild card there, because if he keeps up with his qualifying, because Oscar reminds me of Lewis and what you say, Alonso, right? Okay. As far as, because Oscar has the capability, and now that he has, the car is not going to be as dependent on all the Aero update, and he has a similar thing. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if he, qualifies up there, if not, take the pole, right? Because he's seeing now he can, he's confident that he can do that, because he pulled off second at this track, so he's he'll be in there. But so I would say it's gonna be a mashup. It's gonna be if nobody messes up, it's gonna be a Red Bull, there's gonna be a McLaren, and possibly what you call it there, a Ferrari. You know what I'm saying, in there, right? Or it might be a Ferrari and two McLarens.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
so that's it. So that's kind of where it is, because I like what I'm seeing with Oscar, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the way and how he comes, and he's a deep guy. It's from when you see him, when they talk to him, he seems like he has his emotions very much under control. As my mother used to say, silent water runs deep.
Yeah.
I think he has something. He's out there to prove something, and I'm just close off on one of this. I'm very saddened by the performance of Logan Sargeant, him being an American, and what's going on. I was hoping that he would have been able to pull more of it together this season in order to do a better showing. But that's it.
Well, we'll see. We're not going to throw in the towel on him yet, but we'll see. Yeah. But the beauty of it is we only have a week to wait to see the results of Monaco, because that's coming right up. So we will find out if our predictions are correct or not.
Charles Leclerc, I have it. Charles Leclerc is going to win.
So we'll see. So with that, we're gonna wrap. Thank you everyone for joining us again for another episode of the Fellas Podcast. And as always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and ring the notification bell to stay up to date on all things the Fellas. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next week for the Monaco Grand Prix.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yep.